Welcome to Awakening Airwaves, Wisdom of the Elders Special Edition. My name is Efunlayo, and I'm here with my dear friend, Ipe Tayo. And today, we're going to be talking about symbols and why they matter. So,
Thank you.
how are you this morning, my dear?
I am just wonderful and so grateful to be back here with you, my beloved Iya. Yes,
Enjoy our comings together.
I
By
did
the
too.
way, for you, our audience, we are changing our schedule to where we'll be coming together with Wisdom of the Elders once each quarter.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. So I am so glad we're talking about this today
Mhm.
because I've always been fascinated by symbols and signs and sigils. And so this topic that we chose for today gave me an opportunity to really dive in and learn some more. And I'm so glad that I did because I discovered the differences in signs versus symbols versus sigils. So I'll share a little bit about what I learned. So the origins of the word symbol talks about how it's a representation of how things come together. And it's a Greek word, and it actually means bringing two worlds together. And the
Mhm.
study of the origins of it led me down a path of learning some additional fascinating things. So, a sign, meaning like something that you see, like a road sign or something, okay? That's a simple indication of something. So, you know how you see the stop sign we were talking about the other day?
Yes.
In our world, anyway, in the West, when you see that, you automatically know what that is. And there are many signs like that. A symbol represents a deeper idea or concept. So it's a bigger kind of element. And then a sigil is more mystical, magical, if you will, symbol that represents an intention. And some people talk like about a spell. You hear a lot of people on the internet talking about spelling and spells.
Yes.
And we're understanding that when we speak, we manifest.
Yes.
We're creating a frequency. And so that's what that's talking about, not necessarily the thing we see in the movies where people are dancing around a fire, uh, s- casting spells. That's up one aspect of it. But in our everyday life as energetic beings, everything we think, everything we say, everything we do is a frequency to it.
Yes.
You can feel the energy of a person, and when they speak, you feel their intention more than you even feel or understand what they may be saying. You're feeling it because that's who we are. So, one of the things that I learned and thinking about this topic for the day is that one way of looking at it is that these symbols and sigils are a way of bringing the visible world and the invisible world together so that when you see that sign or you see a symbol, that if you understand and connect with it, it's like bringing something that may be very abstract more into this dimension for us to understand. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
And then it also brings the physical and the spiritual together because that has an essence of a meaning to us. And then it also bridges that gap that sometimes we have in our thinking about the human and the divine.
Yes.
It's like, okay, now I understand why we react to seeing signs and symbols of different types. So there's all different ways. We have our symbols in the mundane world that help us walk through our life. And then we have those in the spiritual realm for those people who walk in that way. So, like when you see a sign that reminds you of some spiritual understanding. And so we find signs and symbols in every aspect of our life. This is not something that we talk about, oh, well, you only use that in a religious or spiritual context versus whatever. It's how we walk, how we think, because even in the words that we use, that we talk about. And so, in the origin of languages and us as a species, we have to, in my understanding, go back to the origins of who we are from an African perspective. And I remember looking at some of the symbolic languages, like pictographs and things of that nature.
Yes.
I thought I used to think, oh, okay, these are sigils or whatever, but they're not exactly, but they kind of are. So, from the African perspective, symbols represent like a container of living power. And it's like, I love the ideas.
Mm, I love that. Yes.
And it
Yes.
says they hold their own spiritual force. So
Yes.
this view from the African worldview is very different from the Western worldview, which sees them as just a representation of something and maybe even just only one thing. But we know that everything, when you kind of delve into it and unpack it, it can have a vast
Yes.
expression as opposed to just this tunnel view of what it is. So symbols are seen as compressed knowledge, and I love that because in early man in all the cultures, when they first started communicating by drawing, and there's much research about all the drawings found in different caves and on different things from ancient times, that was a early way of man expressing a concept. So that whole idea of it being a container helps to understand that. So the concept is similar to how mantras work in the Hindu traditions and how sacred names work in the Abrahamic traditions and how Reiki symbols work in Reiki. So it's a
Yes.
container of great meaning and depth, and only the individual who is viewing that symbol, who is drawing that symbol, limits what it might mean in their world and how they use
Mm.
that to express in the world. And to me, that's just like, whoa, mind. Do you really think about it? Okay. So I also found, and like I said, I just am loving this, that there are 5 functional, foundational geometric shapes that we find used throughout humanity. And they are the circle,
Yes.
which represents unity and wholeness, the spiral or energy and transformation. And we know from working with spirals in our Reiki understanding and in other aspects, it represents this moving force of whether it's something coming in or something moving out. Okay. And then we have the cross or axis, which connects 2 dimensions or worlds. And then we have a triangle, which represents creation and manifestation. And I've never really thought about a triangle like that ever. And then we have the square, which represents stability and earth, the physical reality. And so all of the different signs and symbols and sigils that we connect with come from one of these foundational geometric shapes. And so Reiki symbols are best understood from what I've gathered as sacred sigils. And because Reiki, as we know in the foundation of it, is a spiritual practice,
Yes.
and a manifestation of that spiritual practice is the healing that we get from connecting with the life force.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So also these symbols, sigils, which I'm deciding to use all as the same thing, function as energetic keys or by symbolic formulas used to focus our energy. And so when you think of a formula is like a spell. It's
Yes.
just a combination of thought and words and actions. So it's nothing spooky at all.
Yes.
And we know where that origin comes from people wanting to control other people by telling
Mhm.
this is taboo, this is wrong, you can't do this because it's bad, and we're going to cut off your tongue or chop
Yes.
this or burn it at the stake. So we don't even need to go into that. As my understanding of human life is we have free will and you choose what you do. You
Yes.
and you study before you just jump out there trying to do any old kind of thing. So with the understanding, Reiki symbols are closest to sigils because they represent a specific spiritual force, okay? And each is drawn intentionally while you focus on what it is that you're trying to do. And so when you bring those elements together, that's how they work. So this fascination that I've always had for signs and symbols and sigils, this helped me to understand why I feel that way about it. So, um, Reiki symbols are not exactly strictly sacred geometry because sacred geometry is based on mathematical patterns that we see
Mm.
throughout the universe. So, in one instance, are described as more spiritual calligraphy, which I like. Yes,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Um, and it reminded me that many years ago I was fascinated with calligraphy for some of the same reasons, and I used to study calligraphy. And so, what is the purpose of the symbols that we use? The purpose of the symbols is to convey a meaning that sometimes you can't really put into words,
Mm.
or when you can't use words, or when words aren't really necessary,
Mm.
use that symbol and connect with it. So they're often described as keys. So when you think of that, the keys are like they unlock a frequency for you to tap into. So they symbol function in that way. So symbols have a visual form. Many of them represent a sound, and most importantly, there's an intention that goes along with it. So as we know, most of us know and need to always remember is that humans respond strongly to symbols because our brains are designed to understand the world through patterns and associations and meaning. And that's why, even though we have so many different languages around the world, we always can find a way to communicate. Would
Yes.
find that common way to. So
Yes.
the symbols allow our complex ideas to be transmitted equally. So we've all seen instances like maybe in reading a book or story where two cultures come together with different languages and they can't, so they would draw something on the ground or point to something to make meaning because there's this common understanding because we're the same species of what things might represent. So they allow that. So the human brain is functioning on pattern recognition. And even in our understanding of verbal language and in our written language, it depends on that to make any sense. So when we try to connect something, we're looking for that new thing to connect with something that we're already familiar with so that we can bridge to a new understanding. And so that's how the symbols help work. And that's why we have a lot of universal symbols. You know, when you travel to different parts of the country, especially if you travel internationally, or if you're, looking at things in different ways, there's always going to be that common thing that lets you know. And one of the things that comes to mind is when you travel, you see the universal symbol for man and woman in stick figures, and
Yes.
the symbol for water with two squiggly lines. Most everybody will recognize those
Yes.
of what verbal
Yes.
language you may be speaking. And so symbols allow us to communicate in a large amount of meaning very
Mhm.
quickly without trying to determine what language you may be speaking. And symbols carry entire concepts and they trigger emotional memory. And human language itself is very, very symbolic because you may learn basic communication, but then there's words as your language, as a child's language gets more sophisticated, they learn certain words to use to convey a huge concept,
Mhm.
that rather than having to spring a whole paragraph of words together to get the point across. So symbols feel powerful because they activate multiple brain systems and experiences that connect us to deeper meaning and concepts and help us to communicate with nature as well as with each other. So, this has really helped me to appreciate um, our capacity as human beings to connect with the energy of words, the energy of symbols, the energy of signs, and to understand the difference between signs, symbols, and sigils and how they are used, which is amazing because of the way Reiki brought in to my life. Because I didn't discover Reiki until I was a very mature person, but to bring in all that together, that my fascination with things and then learning Reiki, and there were symbols associated. I'm like, oh gosh, this teaching is like best of both worlds. So,
Yes.
um, yes, so I'm anxious to see what you have to say with regards to this conversation.
Ah, I love the richness of what you shared with us. So foundational and so insightful. Yeah. Um, much that I've learned from what you've shared about the differences of symbols, signs, and sigils, and how they really are universal languages, and as are our Reiki symbols. Uh, and you're speaking the word spells. That really resonated with me because I had once heard Honsha Shonen referred to as a spell symbol, but in your explanation, um, it is clear to me, and in our previous conversation, it became clear in preparing for this call that all of our symbols are actually spells. When you review them in the context of the purity of that word, of the origin and the meaning, the true meaning of the word spell. And I and it's to me, this is really giving a, another context for my sharing about the Reiki symbols as spells. And who would have had, I don't know if anyone else has had a recording, a podcast, or a teaching um, that speaks of our Reiki symbols as spells. So I'm just, I have not either. So I'm grateful to you for bringing forth the clarity um, of uh, the depth of the symbols that we have, the gifts of the symbols that we received, the three symbols that we received in Reiki 2, and our fourth symbol that we received in Reiki 3. And the reason I'm putting these symbols into context as spells is because they have specific purpose. When we specific purpose in healing, evoking healing. And for me, that is what a spell is in its essence, evoking healing. So I make this sign or draw this symbol, and I speak these words of healing. And so, in that context, our Reiki symbols are spells. And so it's just a beautiful cross cultural, deeper understanding and appreciation of the gift that we've been given for in our Reiki symbols. So, and again, in a general context, I want to bring in something else that you spoke of. As an example, when we receive our Reiki symbols as a neophyte, let's say, just moving into our second degree or second level, we get a pretty much simplified explanation of each of the symbols. At least that's my recollection in receiving my symbols and learning the meanings of the symbol and how to use the symbol. So it's a pretty much simple, basic understanding of the name of the symbol and what it means. And the longer we are with Reiki and studying and learning and exploring, we will learn the deeper meanings of these symbols. So this is also in line of what you shared earlier, that there are always deeper meanings. We can continue to go deeper and deeper. And I believe that the deeper we go in our understanding of the symbols, as with anything else, I believe that we benefit even more greatly because our connecting with the meaning, the connecting with what we've learned about this meaning in its depth is going to result in um, us having a deeper connection and also affecting what it is that we are focused on um, in a way that is going to bring a more expanded results.
Yes,
It,
yes,
yeah.
definitely, definitely.
Yes. So,
You become immersed in the understanding and expansiveness of it with practice and with use. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. And with a deeper understanding. So I want to just start with Cho Ku Rei, and I would love for us both to speak about as an example. And we might not have a lot of time to go into all the symbols, but at least Cho Ku Rei is so rich that for all that you shared, before this part of the conversation, we could just focus on Cho Ku Rei. And with focusing on Cho Ku Rei, get a greater understanding of the other symbols by using Cho Ku Rei as an example. So when we become attuned Reiki 2, Cho Ku Rei is the first symbol that we'll learn. And it has become pretty much the darling of the Reiki world. This
I like that, the darling.
yes, it's a fave. And most Reiki practitioners that I know, you know, Cho Ku Rei is the heartbeat. I don't know how else to say it. It's the darling. It's the fave. So when we learned Cho Ku Rei initially, well, let me say from my experience, Cho Ku Rei was taught to me as a blessing. Cho Ku Rei is when we evoke the name Cho Ku Rei and when we draw the symbol, we are sharing a blessing with whomever um, and whatever experience. And in that blessing, we are um, inherent in the blessing and in the kanji, in the drawing, and in the name, in the mantra of the name. We are asking for 100% power to come here, to bring in all of the divine, all of divinity to bless the situation, to either um, expand the energy of the situation for it to be a healing or a blessing, or to contract the energy in this situation to be a healing or a blessing. So that's the simplified explanation for how the symbol Cho Ku Rei was originally, how I received it. Let me just say that way. So we never really explored the image, the Y, the spiral, and also the cross. So in your presentation initially, I was like, aha, okay. So I thought about the spiral, of course, but the straight line. Well, number one, the straight line across, the straight line down is a cross. Okay, so when you look at the deeper understanding and meaning of this symbol. And when you really understand the significance the of the signs or symbols that make up this one symbol, there are two pieces to this symbol, actually three, because we have the initial line that comes across, and then we have the long vertical line, and then we have the spiral. So we are, in fact, invoking divinity or the energy of the divine to come down from the heavenly realm and spiral within myself or whomever I am sharing this symbol with, which is saying in this space to bring in and in that spiraling, circular, penetrating way into this spot, bring the divine in. And then because that spiral has, that point at the end of it, which goes directly into the place that we are sharing the symbol with. And then also the cross is intersecting the physical plane, the heavenly, the divine, the spiritual plane with the physical plane. As you as you explained, what the cross represents. It is that intersectionality of the divine and the mundane or the physical or the human. So looking at just the symbol of Cho Ku Rei, um, which is a kanji, which is the word that is used in Japan for these pictographs, for these symbols that we see. And this particular symbol, Cho Ku Rei, is from the Buddhist Shinto tradition, which originally came from Tibet to China to Japan. Okay, so there is an evolution and a traveling of, as is in most cultures and most symbols, originated somewhere and moved they moved from one group to another group. So the Shinto tradition, Buddhist tradition in Japan is often likened to the shamanic practices, very close to nature. And so this is what we've learned, is the deeper history of this symbol. It's an earth energy symbol. It's a grounding symbol. Again, because of that cross, it is bring this energy in, bring it down, bring it in. It is all around me and it is in me, and I want it to focus there. And that's what that spiral is telling us. So, don't you love that? I love feeling that.
I love
I
it,
love
and that's why, people call it the power symbol because you are
the power
or
symbol. Yes.
unity is always with us, but that part of that intention and the focus of what you're telling it to do,
Yes.
that's where the power
The
work
power
that's
symbol.
why you feel it.
Yes.
We feel it.
Yes.
Yeah. And I love the way you described how the different aspects of that symbol work. And that's that part that I loved learning more about, where we're bringing these different worlds together with these concepts. And it's so rich,
Yes.
so rich. And
And
and our brains just naturally understand that.
our brains do understand. The subconscious works in symbolism. When that is exactly the home of of symbolism in us. We all have it. We all have a subconscious mind, and it operates in symbols. So therefore, you might have heard, and I have heard folks say the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between the what you're telling it as opposed to what we might consider reality. So if I want to present a symbol here, if I bring forth a symbol, my subconscious mind, your subconscious mind, everyone's mind is going to say Cho Ku Rei means bring the power here. I don't know, my mind won't know anything else about Cho Ku Rei. It will,
It has that energy of what it's conveying.
it has the energy of what it's conveying.
And we feel that
Absolutely.
even if you can't verbalize it.
Absolutely. That's exactly. And so however we understand Cho Ku Rei, however we all were taught event, bring the power here, or let this be a blessing. But bring the power here is absolutely the original teaching that we received, because we were also taught in some traditions that for the other symbols, you must have a Cho Ku Rei with it, because it is the power source. It turns on the other symbols. They don't have that ignition in themselves. Cho Ku Rei has that ignition.
Yeah, that is the teaching I received as well. Because
Yes.
it is the power source.
And so what is the power
The
source?
power source, I mean to say.
And the power source is the divine.
Yes.
In whatever culture you live, and whatever spiritual practices you have, there is always divinity. There's always, and different words, but there's always the divine. There's always the source, the creator, the the original energy source. And so with Cho Ku Rei, the bring the power here. So what is the power? The power is the power of the divine. So we are bringing that power in, grounding it in ourselves, in whatever, with another person or a situation.
Right, and acknowledging it, because we can't exist without that life force, that
Exactly.
power. So we're acknowledging that it exists, so that it's like, okay, you know, I acknowledge this, and therefore by acknowledging it, this is how it works for me, how it can help me, how it support me. And if I'm working to help someone else, this is how it can help me support the other person.
Yes.
But it has to be conscious acknowledgement.
It is conscious acknowledgement when we speak the names of the symbols and also draw the symbols. That's conscious acknowledgement. And in this moment in the discussion, I will ask the question: how often have we heard that Reiki is not a spiritual practice? There are many practitioners who will say, well, Reiki is not a spiritual practice. Reiki is a hands-on healing practice. I mean, this is, it has been said, and we know in actuality that Reiki is a spiritual practice. These signs, the Reiki symbols, are all spiritual in their base, in their intention. They're all spiritual in their intention. And
I totally believe that. And also, it's like, just in the definition of what I've found with signs, symbols, and sigils, if we agree that the origin of life and the universe is about divine energy, then
yes,
everything comes from that. So everything is based on that. And it's
yes,
about religious concepts, it's about spiritual concepts.
yes,
Totally different. Religion is just a way of expressing concepts of spirituality that you decide to believe in, you know. But spirituality doesn't have any boundaries or barriers or whatever. And when you study the history of Reiki healing in our Reiki Rahoho, we understand that Dr. Usui was on a spiritual quest. He was not
Yes.
looking for how to heal himself or anybody else. He was trying to understand, what's the purpose of my life? Why am I here? You know?
That's it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Absolutely. Um, and we have a depth of gratitude always to pay to and share with Makayu Sui for bringing these tools forward for us, for our own healing, and to share this knowledge and this wisdom and this healing energy with others. It's such a blessing, and that's why we always are honoring the ancestor, Makayu Sui of this tradition. And I want to add as a piece of this discussion the mantra of the names of these symbols. Cho Ku Rei is a mantra. It is a in the Japanese tradition, it's called kotadama, kotadama, and kotadama means words carrying spirit, a spell, in other words.
Yes. Yes.
A spell. So each one of our Reiki symbols, we are requested to speak its name 3 times as we draw this symbol once.
Yes. And
There's
that's
significance.
incantation.
Incantation. Thank you. So again, Ian and I are very um we have a common interest um in bringing the oneness of all of these traditions that we practice, bringing the awareness of oneness that these practices didn't just spring up um, just out of nowhere. There is tradition, there's meaning, um, depth, and behind them all. So yes, when you can see that the name Cho Ku Rei is a kotatama, and it has a specific vibration. So the drawing itself is one thing, the image and the drawing is one thing, but when we say the name Shokore, 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 it is an incantation, it is a spell, it is a kotatama, it has power and deep meaning. And the more, and one of the ways that uh, our shokare or all of the symbols are empowered is because of the use of millions of people. I can't, even before Reiki, there was this symbol. So before Reiki, there were others who were drawing this symbol. And so again, great gratitude for Master Usui in bringing us this wisdom and knowledge. Um, so that is the beautiful Shokare. Is there something else or anything else that you can think of that you would love to add about that particular symbol? Um,
No, I think you covered it. It's just amazing how, we can continue to expand our understanding of the power of it, the
yes.
uses for it. And I was also taught that you can use chokeray just in and of itself.
Oh gosh, yes. Oh, absolutely.
It's really,
Yes.
it, in a way, is like all you need is chokeray. And when you think
Yes.
about what it means and how it works, that makes sense.
Yes.
And one of the things is, and we've never talked about this, people have made so many Reiki symbols over time, and
Yes.
there's so many different spring offs of Dr. Usui's work, and also I've also found in my studies that Dr. Usui did not invent Reiki.
Right.
He did not,
Yes.
and there were systems of hands-on healing in the world from the beginning of time, from the beginning of humanity. It's
Yes.
the natural instinct. Something hurts, your hand goes there, and that we're not gonna necessarily go down that rabbit hole. That could be another program. But anyway, it's this aspect that we're talking about that was brought to the West by, Mrs. Takata. This what we're talking about. There are other systems of things similar to Reiki out there and have always been. So I felt the need to say that so people won't think, oh, Dr. Sweetie invented Reiki. No, he did not. And he never said that he did. He was
Yes.
blessed with
Yes.
the opportunity to receive the understanding of a concept
Yes.
that was a blessing and a gift to him because of his dedication to his spiritual search for his own life understanding. And
Yes.
he decided to share it. And it wound up coming to the Western world where we were able to connect with it. And so you have all these symbols out there. But to me, people say, well, what about this symbol and that? I said, that's fine. They're wonderful. They're all great. But we have 3 in Reiki 2, and if you go on, you get a couple more that I don't need a whole lot of stuff, There's nothing wrong with those other systems and symbols and whatever things like that, but for just to begin, you can spend an entire lifetime understanding Cho Ku Rei,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
and you
Yes.
only Cho Ku Rei.
Yes.
So it's not like you got to go around feeling like you got to collect all these different symbols and signs and sigils or whatever. And there's nothing wrong with doing that, but I just felt a need to express my understanding of all of that. Because I know when I first came into the Reiki world and after I got through my initial studies and I started discovering all of these, I'm like, wait a minute, do I need to go over here and study that too? And over here and study that too? And over there and study that too? And at a point, it's like, no, you're good.
Yes.
I learned
Absolutely.
all these others, and there are a few that, I picked up along the way.
Yeah.
At the same time, it's not always, in this case, more is not always better because you have
Yes.
any and everything just with Cho Ku Rei.
Yes. Absolutely. That's the beauty of focus as far as I'm concerned. The beauty of focus and going deeper in focus. So if we use Cho Ku Rei again as an example, we can continue to meditate on the meaning of Cho Ku Rei and the power of Cho Ku Rei and receive our own guidance as to an experience, actually, experience of the vibration of Cho Ku Rei. Or we can read other teachers who are researchers and scholars who give us more information about Cho Ku Rei. And and it's my belief, as with any other symbol, if we focus on that particular symbol, we will receive the blessing even hundredfold or more, tenfold or thousandfold of that symbol because of our focus and on that vibration. So the my understanding is that Master Yusui did bring forth for us these symbols because what he found initially was some of the students had a difficult they it was more difficult them to invoke the energy of Reiki, just to bring it in, to call on Reiki energy, and they could not find their own connection with the vibration of Reiki as Reiki. So Master Usui and his wisdom and my understanding of him having vast knowledge of many cultures brought it gave us these particular symbols and the kotatana, the names as mantras to support us and those who were having difficulty in connecting with the energy of healing energy focused. So, um, therefore, we are blessed with these symbols, and as we know, Cho Ku Rei is just one of the many that we received, and I have felt for this, we could really spend one call on each one of the Reiki symbols. So for me, I'm feeling that Cho Ku Rei can give us the overview or the essence of of our intention for this call in um, going deeper into uh, the vibration and the vibrational meaning and the purpose, intention behind symbol signs um, for healing. So,
I want to say, as you were talking, it came to mind that in the beginnings, times of people learning Reiki, it took years.
yes,
Time. It was
yes,
today. You come, you get the training, do it in a couple of days, couple hours, and you're.
no,
It was years, and also in the case of Mrs. Takata, you know, the teacher invited you to learn Reiki. You didn't
yes,
sign up for a class.
exactly,
She was refused over and over and over again until finally she felt like, I'm not leaving here until I've learned this. The
yes,
determination. But, you know, to say in today's world, we want everything yesterday and we want it to do it and we want to master it overnight and all that. And that's just the world we live in. But
yes,
at the same time, when you think about the focus, the intentional desire to know and connect, that's where the magic really is. So
yes,
spending time, and
yes,
when you were accepted in
yes,
learning Reiki, even at level 1, you could be at level 1 for years before
yes,
you moved on to level 2 where you begin to get more and to get the symbols. And so in our world today, that's why I tell all of my students or potential students, and they say, "Oh, I want to be a Reiki master." I'm like, do you really even know what you're saying?
yeah,
Asking for?
yes,
No such thing as a master of anything.
right,
No matter what level you reach, there's always more to know. And that's, I'm speaking in terms of everything in life. So I prefer to call myself a Reiki level 3 practitioner
yes,
opposed to a Reiki master. And I remember when I first began to understand that concept, that I'm in my 20s and I'm going to graduate school to get a master's degree. And I was thinking about the thing. I said, I don't know anything. How could I call myself a master of something? It's like I'm in my 20s. They said, what do I know? And this was at that point, when you're young, you think you do know. But I was at the point I had enough experience to be like, you don't know anything, girl. You know,
yes,
and I
yes,
pondered that whole idea, but also I realized that that's just the vernacular of this culture. But in essence, it's like giving you the it's like any initiation process. Initiation doesn't mean that you've arrived. It means now you have permission to know more.
exactly,
You know,
absolutely,
and so when people come and they talk about, oh, I want to take all 3 levels and I want to do this that, and the other, I said, okay, let's slow it down. And in the first class or even the first conversation before you signed up to take a class, we have the conversation. If that's what you're looking for, this is not the place for that.
yes, yes,
You know,
yes,
as a result of that, I have a lot of people that I have, done the Reiki level 3 process with, who do not have their certificates, because the way my Reiki master teacher raised me is that there is a practicum
mhm,
and there's a
mhm,
series of things to enrich your class learning that you must complete before you
yes,
see that piece of paper. And so they'll take all the training and this, that, and the other. But if you don't finish this, I'm not giving you that piece of paper.
yes,
My name is on there.
yes,
I remember the first time I taught Reiki 3, we had an agreement. We went over what you're going to do, and I gave them their certificates.
Yeah.
And I learned right there, one of them did complete everything, the other did not. And
Yes.
so it's like this thing where you have to have a standard and an understanding that you pass on along with the teaching. It's not just like
Yes.
teach you that and you can go forth. But I think, you know, when I think about how it took years, I understand why it took years.
Yes. Yes.
I understand why it took years. And we have to remember those things and share those things with people, that this is not, take the class and go forth and you're now a master. No, absolutely.
But that's why I love these discussions that we have, yeah, wisdom of the elders, because I feel that this is a time for whoever is tuning in to hear what you just shared and to really get a deeper understanding and a deeper encouragement of focus and practice and the journey to mastery, which I don't believe is ever over in this lifetime, that we continue, if that is our intention, if that is our commitment to master, we continue for the rest of our lives. We will continue to uncover, as we have today in this exploration of symbols and signs and sigils, we will continue to uncover and go deeper with what we have learned yesterday or last year or 10 years ago. Today, we hope that you have garnered something from our conversation that will support your continued growth and your continued continuing to investigate the symbols in general, if that's your interest, and particularly the Reiki symbols. Um, if since we are all practitioners of this beautiful practice, so that's our invitation. Is receive what we've shared, and let it inspire you to go deeper. One of my teachers, Franz Steiner, in his book, one of his books, The Inner Heart of Reiki, invites us to spend a month with each symbol or longer, just with that one symbol, and meditate on the symbol, practice the symbol, write about the symbol, so that your relationship with that symbol um, deepens, and therefore the um, the effect, what one will receive as the gifts and benefits of that symbol will also deepen and expand.
That's powerful. Yes, absolutely. So, this has been wonderful as always. I
Yes.
so much from our exchange. So, if someone wanted to work with you, Ia, how would they reach out to you?
Oh, thank you so much. Well, one of the easiest ways would be to go to my website, which is Ifetayo White, one word, Ifetayo White .co, not .com, but .co. And there you will find all of my contact information, my email address, and my phone number.
Okay, great. And for me, you can reach out to me at efunlayo.com. That's EFUNLAYO.com. That is my website, and you'll see everything that tell you who I am and what I have to offer if you're interested. So thanks. I'm just so glad we did this. And as we close out, we asked you to like and subscribe to Awakening Airwaves. And we have some, if you're new to us, there archive of the previous episodes that we have presented. And we hope that this has been beneficial to you. I know I have enjoyed it and learned a lot of things that I'm going to continue to
Absolutely.
study and look at and use. So thank you for
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's been beautiful to be with you again, and we will be together again next quarter at the in the summer, and look forward to sharing at that time with all those who tune in. Thank you so much.
thank you.